Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have Walt Chaney. We're going to be discussing Walt's amazing book, Rapture, The Greatest Promise Ever Made. Available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a whole host of other places. Head on over there today, pick up your copies, and while you're at it, look at Walt's other book, The Christmas Disease. Both of which, again, available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a lot of others. And before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out the fact that Walt was brought to our network by Citi of Books. So for my writers out there who have gone through their process and now you need help moving the book you just developed, contact Citi of Books, because this is exactly what they specialize in. You're going to want to head on over to cityofbooks.com to gather all the ways that they're going to help you do just that. And listen, it is a true pleasure to have Walt here on the line. People, sit back and strap in. Get ready, okay? This is going to be a heart-pounding book that you're not going to be able to put down. This gripping novel that turns a fun weekend getaway into a chilling fight for survival between friends who happen to stumble upon, get this, a terrorist plot. You know, their bond gets tested as they never imagined. Prior to all of that, some of the conversations that they dive into are going to have you questioning things and hopefully creating conversations with those around you as well. There is so much happening here. This book is layered, it is nuanced, and we couldn't possibly capture it all in a short interview. So by the time we've concluded, you're going to run and purchase your copies. And at the end of the day, Walt is the expert. He's the man of the hour, and he's going to be able to articulate it all much better than I ever could. Walt, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. And I'll tell you, with that introduction, I think I want to go out and buy one myself right now, sir.
You know, Walt, you should. I heard it was good. I heard it was a good one, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, Walt, listen, man, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. We're looking forward to this discussion. I really want to know more about the book. But first and foremost, let's start off by learning more about your background, because you're not an author by trade. Is that correct?
That is correct. My chosen profession is a science teacher, and I absolutely love baseball, and I coach football. I work at a most wonderful Christian academy. It's called Fork Union Military Academy in Central Virginia, and it's just a grand place. Yes, so I was not an author by trade. In fact, English was a little bit of a challenge for me, and learned some great things at Marshall University about writing and symbolism. So I found that fascinating, but to put it on paper, really hadn't found my muse until I started teaching. And then I was able to tell stories often. And through that, realizing that the stories were what was entertaining the students, I decided to take that, study a little bit about what writers do, and then I started using my stories and put them on paper. So that opened it up.
Let's jump right in. Rapture, The Greatest Promise Ever Made. Tell us more about your book.
Well, I found it interesting that with today's issues and the problems that America is having, there was a lot of things thrown around prior to the election. People were pointing fingers. There's this overall arching that a lot of folks think the church is being attacked by secular society, and I just kind of formulated that into one big book, and the boys kind of are exploring through it from the adolescent point of view of like, what's this really about? So as they ride on the trail because they're with their 4 horses there riding across the Appalachian Mountains. The characters' names are Mike, Ed, Wally, and Dalton. So they're on horseback through the Appalachian Mountains, and they're just having an experience after graduating from high school. But as they move through the trail or their journey, they see and they encounter different churches and different points of view. And as they do, they're assessing what's right and what's wrong. And in one thing, Wally says, what would Jesus not do? So in that case, he was talking about the terrorists, the domestic terrorists that I've described in the book, which have the name WASP. And they stumble onto, meaning the boys stumble onto one of the meetings that the terrorists are having and one of their planned attacks. And at that point, all the boys, using the conscious, describes what the terrorist groups are doing. So in that regard, they kind of realize that the terrorist group or the domestic terrorists, the white supremacists, have some pretty crazy ideas. And in order to run across that, I found that whole fascinating with the Charlottesville riots and stuff. So I started reading about them and researching, and some of their ideas that they have, just almost Nazi kind of concepts and Nazi kind of thinking, and it's haunting what some of these people project. Now, I'm not saying that all folks are like that, but if you get to the core of what these men believe, it's pretty scary. So that's what the boys see in the meeting where the terrorists are having their discussion.
You know, Walt, listen, man, I think it's something that I'm sure was very fresh on your mind. And of course, something that it doesn't take a whole lot of delineation to be able to pull from. There's clearly a lot of societal commentary happening here. Your book is fiction, but there are aspects of it that juxtapose against reality. Well, I'm curious, and I want to hear it from you. Were you intentionally trying to make a specific statement about the state of society today through these conversations?
Wow, that's a great question. And I think that the challenges of our society are getting kicked around. My point of the book is that if somebody reads it, they hear the gospel, or else they think about the gospel, and they think about the opportunity to have everlasting life. And if we follow Jesus's advice, Christ always spoke of relationships. And if you follow through the book with the 4 young men, the conscious point of view of those 4 guys is, how should we treat other people? Now, there's comedy in it, and they're picking at certain people, but they're not harmful. But when they're exposed to those terrorists, they're causing the fear and the hatred. It upsets them to the core. And so if you're asking me what you want the people to hear from my story, is that we need to be open. We need to accept others as they are. And, you know, I would like to read a little quote here if I can.
Yes, please.
And Christ will return. Since creation, society has been in a battle between good and evil. The opinion of good and evil is in the conscience of the individual human mind and soul. Each human must discern what is right and what is wrong. We are not to judge one another. Our human responsibility is to accept others as Christ did, as he walked the planet. Jesus Christ reached out to us and demonstrated a better way of life. We must extend our hands beyond race and beliefs. Our job is to become an extension of Christ. We are on his hands to others. We are his hands to others. We must be devoted to this mission until Christ returns. Our life's goal is to demand that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As surely as I live, says the Lord, every knee will bow before me, every tongue will acknowledge God. He will return. So, having said that explanation, that's the overall arching message. Mm-hmm. Now, it's convoluted in a fiction story, and there's silliness involved, there's adventure involved, there is a heinous crime in order to try to solve by the epidemiologists, which that's a pretty good story in itself, revolving around communion, believe it or not, which ties all the Christians together. So this heinous crime is committed. The epidemiologists come in to find out how it happened. The CIA has to step in because they realize that it's a criminal offense. It's impacting the American public, targeting the Christians. So all these people coming together solve the crime. But the four boys hear what the white supremacists really are after. They become the conscious of, we can't act like that. We can't behave like that. We got to treat others as Christ did. So that's what I want people to know. That's what I want out of the book.
People, remember, we're here on the line with Walt Chaney. We're discussing his book, Rapture, the greatest promise ever made. While you're at it, make sure to look into his other book, The Christmas Disease, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a lot of other places, man. Type it into a Google search bar and you'll be greeted with all of them. You know, Walt, I love what you're saying. And I know a lot of my listening audience, man, they're picking up what you're putting down, and they're in total agreement. Because I think when you hear the words, well, yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of those old bracelets that people used to wear, right? The What Would Jesus Do bracelets that were very popular years ago.
Yeah, sure did. I had one myself. Absolutely.
So I know a lot of people, man, they're listening to you, and they're like, yeah, Benji, I get it, man. I like what he's saying. I'm there for it. And although they can take the words and they agree with it and they can internalize it, I also have to be a realist and understand that, well, you're talking about the message of Jesus and envisioning what Jesus would do, or in turn, what Jesus wouldn't do. Well, it brings up the question of, listen, I'm not necessarily a religious person. I've always considered myself more spiritual, but I'm absolutely a believer. But one thing that I constantly see myself questioning nowadays is the notion in the Bible of love thy neighbor. And you look around on what is happening today, man, it doesn't appear to be like there's a whole lot of loving thy neighbor that's happening. Although these are the messages that we're wanting to get across, we don't see that depiction happening across the board. So I guess my question here is, as you were constructing this, did you have a worry about how readers might react to these heavy, polarizing topics?
Well, first of all, no, I'm not worried. I invite them to whichever side that they take, that they'd read my book and give it a chance. Again, here's the thing that I find fascinating, because I've been a Christian all my life, is that for somebody to really turn their eyes onto Christ and use the Holy Spirit each day to discern what's right and what's wrong, which is the guiding factor of improving citizenship. I truly believe that people need to hear the word or the gospel 7 times before they're really exposed to it. So as they read my book, it might have only heard the gospel 1 time. Hey, if God wants to, that person picks up that book and reads it for the 7th time. And lo and behold, I'll see those folks in heaven. And I say that, and I just had an experience the other day that the car dealership that I go to, I dropped off a book in there because I had to wait and get my car. I just walked away, just left it and dropped it. Coffee shops, whatever. And this salesman, a week later, calls me up and said, "Hey, I just read chapter 2 of your book, and I am so impressed what was said." And the story is about Zacchaeus and talking about how the preacher uses that book of his experience, of Jesus' experience with Zacchaeus, to describe a very distinct point. So do you see how this book has the potential to reach somebody that likes horses? This book has the potential to like somebody that likes mysteries. This book has somebody that's interested in what is Rapture. Because if you look at the title of my book as a question mark, because we really don't know what Rapture is. We don't know. People claim they do, but if you really read it, it's still the mystery that God doesn't want us to know. And I'm convinced of that. People are trying to solve it, trying to do it, trying to point it. But we are humans, and we're trying to capture a thought that was explained by Jesus Christ, but it was created by the God and the creator of the universe.
Where I find a lot of the power in this book, listen, as I mentioned at the top of the show, it is a gripping novel, okay? It is going to keep you entertained. It is going to be a nonstop page turner. We got that. I look at the commentary. I look at the discussions that you can have as really being where the power of this book lies. And although we can continue to dive down that rabbit hole and we can discuss a lot of the intricacies, you all got it. You know where you got to go. You know what you got to do. Walt, as we close out, man, my final question for you. We've discussed a lot of information here today. I know you've already put out what you want your readers to take from the book, but is there anything else you would like to tell them before we let you go?
I sure would. And I am teaching at Fort Union Military Academy, and we're trying to rebuild a couple of different programs. And I wanted to let people know that with the purchase of my book, some of the money is going to go back into the school that I teach at. And we are a school that believes in developing young men and with Christian values. And we are in a situation where the students aren't using cell phones. And the young men are expected to behave and act a certain way. And I've started working here, and I just believe in this mission so much that I really, if there is money generated from the sales of the books, some of it is going back to help these young men become stronger and better man, and hopefully followers of Jesus Christ.
Well, listen, people, this is now a mission that you can contribute to not only for your own entertainment, but for the betterment of this particular institution. I'm telling you, Walt Chaney is a name that you need to get familiar with. It starts with Rapture. It continues to The Christmas Disease. Head on over there today, pick up your copies, and get lost in all of it. Walt, this has been an absolute pleasure, man, a real delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
It's an honor to have been selected for this interview. I am grateful. Thank you very much.